Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. There are no traffic jams along the Extra Mile when you're studying for your bar exam. And now, your host, Jackson Mummy, owner of the Celebration Bar Review.
Well, hey everyone, welcome to episode 186 of the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. This is Jackson Mummy. I'm glad to have you with me. And today's episode, if you're listening to it or watching it on our release date, means that we're now within a week of the February 2018 bar exams. So we're going to keep this message relatively short. We know that for those of you getting ready for the exam, there's a lot going on. I want to give you some practical tips today. We're going to talk about specifically what to do on the last weekend before the exam, how to prepare at the end, and hope you'll stick around for that information. If this is your first time with us on the podcast, we want to welcome you. We're glad to have you with us. And we've been doing this for a few years now. Every Wednesday, we release an episode, all things bar exam related. And obviously, we've got a lot of folks who are joining us now, getting ready for the July 2018 or the February 2019 exams. So stick around. We've got a lot to share with you over the upcoming weeks. I want to let you know that you can find our podcast in a couple of different places. If you prefer the audio version, you can go to iTunes, or you can go to Spotify, or you can go to iHeartRadio. Definitely find it in all three of those places. If you prefer the video version, all you have to do is type in celebrationbarreview.com/ and then the episode number. This is episode 186, so you can find it right there. And all of the show notes will be in the video as well as the audio pages. And if you'd like to go back into our archives to find older episodes, you can do that by going to our website, celebrationbarreview.com, and you will see the podcast link at the top of the page. Click on that, and the entire archive is there. Now, over the years that we've been doing these podcasts, and we're up over 3 years now, I've had a lot of opportunity to do messages in the week before the bar exam. And if you're interested in any of those, we'll link to some of our most successful or most popular episodes right before the bars in July and February from years past. So just check out the show notes. And I think they're timeless messages in the sense that what you have to do doesn't really change all that much, and the approach you want to take doesn't change a whole lot either. So I encourage you to check those out. One other quick note before we jump into today's message. I want to invite all of you who are going to be taking the exam in July or February of 2019 to join us this Thursday, that's February 22nd, for our free webinar, How to Make the Next Bar Exam Your Last Bar Exam. This is a look at the powerful, proven way to pass. We're going to take you through the 4 steps that successful students follow in order to pass their bar exams. I'm going to be sharing case studies with you. I'm going to show you specific things that we think you need to do. I'm going to outline an entire plan of action for you that I know will be helpful to you. We've been doing these webinars for a long time, had great success and great feedback. It's a very, very popular webinar that we offer, and it's completely free. Now, we'll be offering this on Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. That would be 4 p.m. Pacific time, and invite you to join me live for that. If that time doesn't work for you, however, you'll also see a link when you go to register for an on-demand version. It's the same content. I'm just not there live, and you have to email your questions to me, but exactly the same material. So you've got a couple of choices there. You can use the on-demand version and watch or listen at your convenience. So in order to register, go to our website. You'll see a button on the front page to claim your seat. Or if you're watching the video today, just scroll down to the bottom of this page and you will see on that page the opportunity to register. It's completely free. We'd love to have you there. I think it could be a real game changer for you. Well, without any other information now, I think it's time to jump into what to do for your last weekend of study. We're in the weekend right before the bar exam as I'm recording this, and this is a really interesting time. I like talking to my students because a lot of them are ready to take the test. They're excited about it. They know they're going to pass. They've done the work, and now they're going to see the results. But I also have some conversations this week with people that are still anxious and concerned. They know what they have to do over the weekend to get ready, and now they're in the process of doing that. A common theme that I find in going through these conversations, however, is the notion of what it is that's being tested and how do you get ready for that at the end of your studies. And I'd like to talk about those things for a couple of minutes. In general, I think that the test has 3 broad components to it, no matter which bar exam you're actually taking. I think that there's a mental or substantive knowledge component as one of those elements. I think there's also a physical component to the test, and then I think there's an emotional component. Now, the substantive mental piece, most of you have already done the work. You've come up to the point where you're close to the exam, and I would say that you're not likely to learn a whole lot more from this stage on. I know that some people who are watching are probably still cramming and studying, and if they're the ones that are really cramming, they're probably not even watching this video. But if you know somebody that's going through that, the reality is that even though they're doing all that work, they're not substantively gaining a whole lot at this stage. The truth is that the bar exam of every jurisdiction isn't amenable to 3 days worth of cramming, no matter what the big box bar reviews or your law schools told you. I think that the mental component is either put together or it's not put together at this point, and it actually becomes much less relevant at this stage of the study, even though that's where most of people are putting most of their effort. So if you're thinking that this is a time when you can just really push on and do all of this mental work and learn all of these things, that's probably not true. What about the physical component? That's a pretty big deal. If you're taking a test like Texas, which is 2.5 days, or really any jurisdiction that's got a 2-day exam, that's a long bit of testing. It's a long physical experience. Even a 2-day test is a lot. I'm glad we don't have the full 3-day exam in California anymore, but 2 days of testing is a solid bit of work. And even if you're doing just 1 day of the test, maybe you're taking the attorney's exam or the multi-state only, that's still a lot. It's at least 6 hours of good, hard mental work. Well, as a result, I think one of the keys in the weekend before the exam is to take good care of yourself physically. Get some rest this weekend and honor that internal feeling that your body gives you when it says, I'm done. Go ahead and listen to that. Stop and just let it go. If you're struggling with that, this is a good time when you take that stop to stop and think, hey, what do I need to bring with me for the exam or to the hotel? And I've got some suggestions in that regard. Take your own pillows. I think they make a world of difference. Take a white noise machine, because you don't really want to hear people running up and down the hallways all night asking each other the answer to question whatever it was. Take an alarm clock that you know is going to work, and make sure you've got one of those. Also, make sure that there's somebody who's going to check in with you on the morning of the exam to call you and get you up. Now, if you're changing time zones to take the test, start thinking about this weekend putting yourself in that new bar exam jurisdiction time zone so that you're really into the flow of it. Start mimicking the routine that you're going to have on the day of the exam. So get up at the hour you would normally get up, have the breakfast that you're planning to have, really get yourself in that structure. Also, be certain to eat well this weekend. Hydrate, make sure that you take good care of yourself, do all the things that you would normally want to do. Now, I also have to say, it seems silly, but I do have to mention that you shouldn't quit smoking or drinking if you've been doing that all along. Drinking at the bar, probably not such a great idea, but don't change any big habits. That's really my point. This is particularly true when it comes to prescriptions. Don't start a new prescription regimen this weekend if you can possibly avoid it. I'm always surprised when people do that, and they've been on a prescription and they suddenly stop taking it, or they start something new, and then they freak out during the exam, or something happens physically to them, and they're surprised that that would occur. When you add the stress plus the medicine, it's a bad situation, and things will not go well. So be thoughtful about what you're doing in that regard. If you must change some medications, be sure that you talk to your doctor before you do it, and that your doctor knows you're taking the bar exam. It actually can make a difference. Well, that's sort of the physical part of what you want to do. You're taking good care of yourself physically, you're setting up your routine, you're getting yourself ready for a good couple of days physically wherever you're staying to prepare for the exam. But the biggest part to me of these three components is the third one, the emotional component. And what I mean by the emotional component is that the bar exam everywhere essentially tests your ability to keep your emotional equilibrium. Being a lawyer requires working under pressure. It requires working with deadlines and having, in many cases, your client right next to you there, right beside you, or having to get your brief filed on time, or going to the court to negotiate a settlement or to do a set of transactional documents in a timely and correct basis. All of those are pressure-filled tasks. And truthfully, if you're unable to handle that kind of pressure, you may not have the emotional maturity yet to be a member of the bar. I think, frankly, that the examiners are right to give and create a high-stakes, high-pressure environment in order to help measure whether or not applicants can handle the pressure of this profession. Now, I have a lot of students that tell me at this stage that they're really in what they think of as trial mode. These are obviously attorneys who've been through trial mode and they know what that means, but I think it's a great way to put it. You see, when you're in trial mode, you're just focused on the trial, the work you've got to do. You get yourself locked in and focused, and you go to get that work done. You know there's a deadline. You know you're going to get it done, and you've got to get it done. And you know that you have to keep your calm and cool and not freak out in front of the client or opposing counsel or the court or whatever it might be. And I think the same thing is true here when it comes to the bar exam. Your emotional ability, if you will, at this point is pretty important. That means that over this weekend, you might need to take some time for rest, taking time for prayer or meditation, just being out by yourself by a little bit, calming down, breathing, thinking through it. If you're using the paraliminal recordings that we offer, I would say that the best recordings right now are Personal Genius, Empower Thinking, Deep Relaxation, Sleep Deeply and Wake Refresh. Those are all great recordings to help take good care of yourself. Now, what all of this means on the exam, and part of my advice to students is when you get into the test, whether it's the essay or the performance or the multiple choice, very likely it's going to be that somewhere in the course of that test, there'll be one or more moments when you hit a blank wall and you just don't know what's being asked of you. Well, don't be surprised by that. Don't be afraid of it. It happens, and it happens to almost everyone. So how do you handle it? Well, I think you break the problem down to its smallest components. That is, it's not the entire essay that's a problem, it's a part of the essay. So handle the things you can handle. It's not the entire MBE, it's a couple of questions on the MBE. Handle what you can handle. If you're in our course and you've been working through our approach to writing, you know that you can take each part of the problem and break it into smaller pieces, make arguments, and then if you have to, make up the law. It'll still get you to the right place in terms of the answer. So don't let the problem overwhelm you. Don't let the circumstance overwhelm you. You see, when bad things happen at the exam, and they will, and frankly, as I look at all the craziness going on this weekend with ExamSoft, I've got to believe that there are going to be a lot of drama. There are going to be a lot of people that show up at the exam and their computers don't work. And there's going to be drama. Things are going to happen. When those things happen, treat them emotionally as something you expected. If that happens to you in the exam, whether it's I can't use my computer or I'm in the middle of the test and I hit something and I just don't know it, stop, put your materials down, take your hands off the keyboard or off your pen, close your eyes for a moment and take a nice breath, a nice big belly breath, slow and gentle. Get yourself back to a nice calm position and then start working. Either skip the multi-state question, come back to it later, or if it's an essay and you're in our course, look at the facts, write about the facts and the problem, make up arguments, and then start writing the law as you understand it. Let the information begin to flow through you again. And if you're a photo reader in our course, you understand what that means intuitively and the ability to just be calm and let your genius mind work through you and instead of against you. Now, I know a lot of people watching this will be memorizers. You've got your mnemonics, and you've got your mnemonics to remember your mnemonics, and then you've got your song to remember your mnemonics, and so on. I would tell you, if you're that kind of a person and you can't remember those things, here's my free advice. Go to the facts. Use the facts. They're always there. They're always in front of you. The fact pattern will give you a lot of clues about what's going on. You have that resource available if you choose to use it. You really don't have to be memorizing. I know that that's heresy for those of you in the big box bar reviews, but memorizing is the least effective thing you can do this weekend. So I would encourage you, regardless of your circumstance, to keep your calm and to be cool throughout all of this. The last thing I want to say about what this weekend represents for a lot of people, I think the bar exam is the finish line. You've been working and studying, and maybe it's the end of law school, or it's the end of a prolonged period of study, or at least a study period for a few weeks of pretty intense work. And the tendency is to think, well, that's the end point, it's the end line. And that's actually a problem, I think, in your thinking. You know, I don't know a lot about sports in terms of actually being an athlete, but I've been told that runners are advised to actually run through the tape at the end, not to pull up as they're coming into the finish line. And that analogy strikes me as appropriate for the bar exam. I don't think of the test as the end of the process so much as the beginning of your legal career in that particular jurisdiction. And it seems to me that if you treat the bar exam as the start of your career, then your emotional capacity, your physical capacity, and your mental capacity throughout the exam will in fact set you up in the way that you're going to practice law afterwards. It'll be a great starting block for your legal career. If, on the other hand, the way that you see this is as an end point, well, I think you're going to come to the exam really being tired, frustrated, angry, mentally drained, physically drained. That's a very bad way to begin one's legal career, or to begin anything for that matter. And while it might seem like it's a semantic difference, I think it can make a huge difference in your mental approach and in your preparation over the next few days. If you think of yourself as someone who's getting ready to start the rest of their career, then the bar exam is the launching pad for that career. You would view it very differently than saying, well, it's this big brick wall that I'm going to hit at the end, and it's going to hurt when I get there. I would much rather that you think of it as a slingshot. This is your chance to show the examiners, the other members of the bar, your future peers, what you're really capable of doing. In fact, I recommend to my students that you actually dress for court when you go to take the bar exam. Frankly, it'll freak out the people around you. It'll get you a little extra respect from the proctors, and it sets the tone that you're there to work and not to just simply be flailing away. You know, if you've done the work, if you've been doing the study, certainly if you've been in our course and you've made the effort and you've followed our approach, then you should expect good things to happen. And if you view next week as the start of those good things, then you're going to come to the test in a very different mindset than someone who's already decided, you know what, this is going to be a disaster. I mean, there's going to be drama, bad things are going to happen, my computer's going to break, ExamSoft's going to tell me that my Microsoft operating system is the wrong one. All of these horrible things are going to happen, and I'm going to have a meltdown, and at the end, it's going to be awful, and what happens to me next? You know, I'm particularly concerned when I hear from people asking before the bar exam what to do about their retakes. Now, it's not because we don't want people to be able to retake the bar if necessary, but just because it's kind of a defeatist way of thinking, isn't it? You know, I don't see what the advantage is to that. You can't do anything about it at this stage. Why anticipate what's going to happen if you fail? It reminds me a bit of Wile E. Coyote in the old Roadrunner cartoons. You remember, he runs off the side of the cliff. He's doing fine. He's running in thin air until he looks down. Right? And then, boom. Well, why look down? I mean, just keep running, keep going. Go as far as you can. Maybe you'll get to the next mountain and you can keep climbing up and going after the Roadrunner. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about Wonder Woman, the movie, and her crossing no man's land. And I said, you know, Wonder Woman doesn't stroll across no man's land. She runs full out. She's not running to just be there. She's got a purpose. She's got a mission. She is going for it all out. And that's the way I think you have to approach the bar exam. If you take this approach of a finish line next week versus a starting line, it'll really help you. If you keep in mind over the next few days the idea of making sure that you want to take good care of the mental component, the physical component, and the emotional component, then you're giving yourself, I think, the very best chance for success in the days to come. I hope that's helpful. I wish you all very good luck and great success on the bar exam, and I hope that this is a productive and successful weekend for everybody. Thanks for being with us. Well, that's our message and episode for this week. I want to just wish all of you that are taking the exam next week the very best. I hope it's a great, successful opportunity for you, a great chance to show what you're capable of doing and what you know. It's been a real pleasure to have you with us on the podcast. If you've been preparing for this February 2018 exam, I appreciate so much the comments and feedback I've gotten from so many people, literally from around the world. It really means a lot to us. I really look forward to hearing great things from all of you as you come out of the exams. Certainly to our students at Celebration Bar Review, we wish you good success on the test. But for everybody that's been part of our podcast family leading up to this exam, I invite you to come back after the exam. We'll be doing some episodes with more interviews of successful bar takers. We'll also be doing some recaps of the exam from around the country, sharing some feedback, and just generally kind of helping you reintegrate back into the world. And for those of you who are starting the journey onto the exams later in 2018 and in 2019, stick around. We got a lot to share with you as well. And that's it for this week. We'll see you all next week. Have a great exam, those of you taking the test. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers at www.celebrationbarreview.com.